It happens every year, doesn't it? The privileged North London dwelling, champagne swilling Remain establishment crow about Brexit-related delays as they travel to their Tuscan villas. Now, there are long queues at Dover. I should add they did happen when we were in the EU as well. But I'm not going to lie, it's bad this weekend and the French need to speed things up. And mark my words, they will. Otherwise, we will go somewhere else for our holidays. I guarantee you better technology will see us fly through in time. But even with the current arcane systems in place, outside of peak holiday season in July, you'll find that the flow of Brits to and from the continent has largely been seamless, with the Eurostar terminal, for example, now empty most of the time. It's ironic, isn't it, that critics of Brexit need to campaign on a regular basis about how terrible it is. The Remain cause has its own marketing department, its own PR, its own spokespeople, many of them powerful figures in the media. If Brexit was so bad, you wouldn't need this level of propaganda. It would be self-evident. But the Brexit disaster is like Tony Blair's weapons of mass destruction. It's nowhere to be seen. Exports to the EU up since we left. Exports to the rest of the world up since we left. Economic growth higher than Germany since we left. The Eurozone in recession, the German economy actually shrinking this year, all since we left. Trade deals with the rest of the world since we left, including the astonishing CPTPP, which I thought was a cough mixture, but which is a massive trade deal hard to swallow for Remainers, given the fact that it represents a trading bloc larger than the EU itself. An agile approach to the vaccine rollout since we left. Discarding EU rules and regulations, saving £2 billion a month on membership fees, and avoiding a bill of £190 billion for Europe's COVID overreaction since we left. Now, Andrew Neil, a good friend of mine and formerly of this parish, has written in the Daily Mail about the ongoing decline of the Eurozone as a market, as the USA has grown. The EU, in relative terms, has shrunk, and there's no reason why that will not continue. Look, I know he's not perfect and he's no angel, but should Donald Trump return to the White House, let me tell you, a trade deal with America, our greatest economic and diplomatic ally, will be back on the table. And there is the small matter of a forthcoming trade deal with India, the world's largest democracy and a market of 1 billion people. We have deep historic and economic links, of course, and the Indians are reporting this week as saying that they expect the two countries to sign on the dotted line before Christmas. Santa comes early. So I'm afraid to say that bitter Remainers are running out of road. I'll grant you this historic, constitutional, economic and diplomatic change is not without consequence. Businesses have suffered, particularly smaller operators, many of whom have given up exporting to the EU altogether because of red tape. Plus, it's a nightmare for many trying to work in the EU. That must be addressed. And it's sad that young Brits can't go over to Italy or France and start a new life there. And it's sad that older Brits can't retire to the sunshine of Portugal or Spain. But the long-predicted Brexit disaster has not happened. And with sovereignty restored, with Brits safe from the threat of the euro, free movement and ever closer union, we now control our own destiny. So far, so good. Bitter Remainers are now so desperate they're clinging to disinformation of which they accuse Brexit supporters. How so? Well, take a look at this story in the Mail about chaos for travellers needing to register their fingerprints and facial details just to get to the continent. It has been characterised by the usual suspects as punishment for Brexit and evidence of the inconvenience our departure brings. Why let a headline get in the way of a good story? This new biometric data is required by any foreign national entering an EU state, including members of the EU who are not signed up to Schengen. Aha! So given the fact that even if we were still in the EU, and we'd never have accepted Schengen, which is unlimited free movement across the bloc, the story is a red herring. If we were still in the EU, we would still be giving our fingerprints and our facial recognition. So it's a non-story, and those citing it are playing games and, surprise, surprise, misleading you. Now, I voted Remain in 2016, but immediately accepted the results. And I can see that those who backed it, day in, day out, are winning the argument. Hatred of Brexit ignores the facts and ignores what has actually happened since we left. Hatred of Brexit is political, not economic. It's ideology, not policy. Hatred of Brexit is religion, not reality. And anyone hoping we go back in will need a miracle.